This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Detroit is the greatest! Straight up light you on fire for a Coney dog right now.
Darren McCarty comes back with Neiman in front of him. McCarty draws. McCarty in. McCarty scores! He makes them a goal! Darren McCarty!
Stafford takes, throws, end zone, Calvin, touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Welcome in, everybody, to today's edition of the Motor City Sports Rant. I'm the Doc, John Macaroon. Jason joins me over the telephone. We're both recovering from Super Bowl Sunday. Probably Jason a little bit better than me. Oh, my goodness, Jason, let me tell you this. I ate a ton of food. I can admit I watched that game basically hunched over on the part where you put your legs on the couch, and I'm like, oh, please give me something to cheer about. I ate so much food. Oh, my goodness. It was great. I enjoyed it. I didn't come to work till like 2 o'clock on Monday, but I'm looking forward to recapping the game. But like everybody else, everybody's kind of debating what the hell they watched on Sunday, because I think everybody that predicted that game really would have bet the over and thought that both teams would have put up points. That's not what we got. We got a 13-3 victory by the Patriots, their 6th Super Bowl championship.
Obviously, it wasn't what people expected, but I mean, the signs were there. You give Bill Belichick 2 weeks, and that was what everyone was saying, is if the Patriots were going to come out there and have a chance to really win, because even though the Patriots were favored, the entire year, I would have said that the Rams would have actually been the favorite team going up against the Patriots. But everyone was saying the way that they're going to win this game is Bill Belichick is going to come up with a defensive plan, slow down the Rams' high-powered offense, and that's exactly what they did. And you can't also, sneeze at the Rams' defense. With Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh, they got a ton of great guys. So it really just ended up being a defensive battle that, it came down to the old school versus the new school, and the old school won this week.
How do you feel about those that complained heavily about the commercials, about the game being really boring, about the fact that this game set football back, that the new age of football is offense, and what the heck did these guys really bring to the table, that this goes to show you that these two squads really didn't belong in general, that the Saints and the Chiefs would have put on a much better show? It's hard to argue against that because, really, I know, look, I appreciate defense, but at the same time, both squads didn't execute well. You definitely have to give credit to Wade Phillips and to Bill Belichick. Give them credit. But at the same time, you had Jared Goff, you have offensive weapons in Todd Gurley that weren't utilized properly. You feel like maybe Gronk could have been utilized better. You feel like maybe that maybe both squads wanted to emphasize the run going into it to control the game because of fear of the opponent. But at the same time, I do think both squads would look at that film and say, wow, we left a lot of points on the field. Jason, do you realize in the entire course of that 60-minute game, one offensive play took place in the red zone? Just one. And I'm shocked, and that was a touchdown. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable in 2019 that is the stat. One offensive play took place in the red zone. It's shocking the level of offensive utility that we saw.
I'm not really shocked at the Patriots because watching them play that game, that was exactly what they did. They know what they have. Tom Brady isn't the guy who's going to sling it around all the time. And, granted, he did make some very bad throws, throwing an interception on his first pass in the Super Bowl. But that's what the Patriots are. If there's anything that I would complain about, it'd be Todd Gurley, because Jared Goff's quarterback for the Rams, I do think he's a quarterback who can be exposed. He's 2 years removed from being the number 1 overall pick, and people thinking that he's a bust. So, I'm not that surprised that Bill Belichick was able to take him out of his element. My biggest thing is that and everyone was saying it, where was Todd Gurley? If he was really 100% healthy, why wasn't he out there all the time? And I get that they said that they didn't want to, maybe they're looking long term, but this is the Super Bowl. He's the top paid running back in the NFL. And this is the guy that you rode with all your success this season. Why wouldn't you absolutely run him down the Patriots' throats? That boggled my mind that, they just weren't able to work him into this game plan. And if it comes out that he was hurt, then I think that's almost a shame, because they were just lying the entire time, because they continuously say, oh, it's not about his health. He's fine. It's on me. I have to work him into the game plan. It's not hard to work Todd Gurley into the game plan. Give him the ball and let him do what he's going to do.
Exactly. I do think he was hurt. But at the same time, I think what people are gravitating towards when they look at what happened was, once the Patriots realized that the Rams were doing great things on defense, they adjusted a little bit and started to kind of open up just a little bit with a couple tight ends and a fullback, and they were able to adjust on the fly, where I think the Rams were really stringent on their game plan, and they didn't vary too much from their game plan, and you saw
they took away their entire offense.
Exactly.
I read it that they put their number 1 cornerback on Brandon Cooks, and they doubled their number 2 wide receiver, and you can't even name the number 3 wide receiver. The game might have been a different story if they still had their 3rd wide receiver in Cooper Kupp, because that guy he can make some deep plays. So the fact that the Patriots were able to take away essentially their top 4 options in Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, Todd Gurley, and C.J. Anderson, you're forcing Jared Goff to read defenses and somehow find another way to beat the New England Patriots.
Yeah, no, I just think that the Rams, when they look at this, are going to kick themselves, because I do believe that Sean McVay was our coach, and I do believe that offensively they definitely let down the squad, because the defense did a good job. I mean, everybody will say if you walked into that game thinking that the Patriots were only going to score 13, you would have given the Lombardi Trophy right away to the Rams. They would have definitely been able to score some points. But it goes to show you, man, Bill Belichick is a masterful genius. He had a squad that believed, and they really played that disrespect card right to the max. They got their 6th Super Bowl win, and I do believe that squad, especially knowing how bad Tom Brady played, it was shocking that, his first pass was an interception. He didn't look that good. Numbers were down across the board, one of the worst Super Bowls that he's played in, but he got his 6th ring based on the backs of that defense. And kudos to the Patriots, because like Adam and I said, and like everybody says, the Patriots can beat you any which way. If you want to go toe-to-toe, they could probably do that. If they needed to run the ball down your throat, they could do that. The Patriots this season, you got to give them credit for that team winning it all, because going into it, I think the Rams, even without Kupp and without 100% Todd Gurley, could have done more by throwing the ball a little bit deep, by opening up the playbook, by trying a couple new things. I feel like they had game plan A, and once it was taken away, it was like, we're in big trouble. And Goff played his worst game. I mean, the game was close. I feel like that late interception, I think that they got a little bit impatient, and sometimes in those moments, people will say that in football, look, at the highest levels in a game like a Super Bowl, you only need to make 3 or 4 big throws, and can you do that? And early on, Jared Goff was not able to accomplish that, and I think he forced it, resulting in that interception. It was a massive mistake late. They were still in it. They were still within a score, and I do think that the pressure got a little bit to Jared Goff and the entire offense there for the Rams.
Yeah, he was missing open receivers, and he was at the point where he was looking for the home run ball. He was looking to change the tide of the game. And they almost did, but Brandon Cooks dropped the ball, and that was essentially game over at that point. That if he catches that ball and they get a shot at 4 shots at getting a touchdown, then maybe we're talking a different scenario today. But drops the ball, Jared Goff comes right back, throws a pick, and it's game over.
I want to ask you this: do you think Wade Phillips had the best game plan? Because it seemed like no matter what they were able to do or what scheme they tried to enforce, they were not able to stop Julian Edelman. I was shocked that he got that many receptions for that many yards. Now, you've seen what they were able to do. They were able to take away pretty much every other option when maybe I would have thought, well, maybe you let a Chris Hogan, get open a little bit more. Or maybe you try to stop Edelman in order to cut off the New England Patriots. Do you think that strategy was fair? Because Edelman went off, and every time again, when it was a key third down, Edelman got the ball. And it was just shocking that he put up those numbers, because you would think naturally that the guy that everybody would want to stop would be Julian Edelman.
I mean, he came in with the best game plan that he could, and it's literally his magic with Julian Edelman. Like, I look at there's some players in the NFL where you're just like, why haven't teams figured out how to cover that guy? Guys like Antonio Brown and Tyreek Hill, where you think that they're not these great players, but somehow defenses just forget about these guys. And Julian Edelman, it really is one of those players. He may not be as dynamic as those other wide receivers, but he just gets the job done. So, I mean, Wade Phillips came in, and he did a good job, but, I mean, overall, and I'm not sure what the final breakdown was of time of possession, but, you just look at that first quarter and how, even though the Patriots didn't really get on the scoreboard, they were able to control the ball, and they were keeping the assets of the LA Rams defense. They're gassed. Aaron Donald, you're talking all week about how Aaron Donald and Dominican Sue are just gonna, they're gonna light up Tom Brady, and they're out on the field and they're gassed. So they really weren't a factor in that game.
How'd you take in the Super Bowl? What was your game day experience like?
As a dad, I got a 2-year-old at home, so we watched it. I had to turn it on right as the national anthem started. So got to watch pretty much the entire game. Obviously didn't, the times that I wasn't able to be watching, I didn't miss much because of the lack of scoring. But I got the gist of the game. I did watch most of it. So, I had some good food. I didn't, attend any party, but I had a good time with my wife and my kid.
Yeah, I enjoyed the experience. I had my in-laws over. We ran a poll on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, and I was kind of surprised, actually. We got well over 700 votes, and it went this way. 52% of people definitely wanted to go to a party, whether it be at a friend's house or hosting a party. But I was really surprised at this number, Jason. 42% of people would rather their number one option be to watch a Super Bowl at home alone.
I mean, why not? Some people, they enjoy that, being around other people. But, realistically, and especially if the Lions ever did make a Super Bowl, I'm sure I would attend a party. But also part of me would want to sit there and watch it myself and just be able to just be constantly ingrained in the game, because I would want to remember everything about that. So, for me, it would be a catch-22 if the Lions ever made the Super Bowl. But I understand those people. You want to watch the game. You don't want to have to worry about making dumb conversation with, people that you may or may not know. So I get it.
For me, I'm a guy that loves the commercials. I was a guy that, turns up the TV even louder. Now, I have it set pretty good, like 21, where it's booming, you can hear everything, but then I turn it up and make sure everybody's quiet for the commercials. But for the last 3 years, I find myself going, wow, I don't know if it's because of PC, if it's because advertising has changed totally and I'm not aware of it, but the commercials for the last couple years have been god-awful. I mean, I like the T-Mobile one. I thought that it was interesting and funny, made me chuckle. I was surprised that a beer company in Bud Light decided to advertise and basically call out another beer company and things like that for something really kind of ridiculous in terms of corn syrup. I found that the commercials were kind of tame, not funny, uninteresting, and for the price, I just find it that, man, $5 million to spend, it would really, if I was looking at it and I'm an owner of a company, I'm going to spend $5 million. I want a commercial that's going to blow everybody away. My goal would be to win the night. And for the NFL, the 100-year commercial was awesome. I think that was really the best thing that was aired. It's better than the game, better than any other commercial, was to see all the old players destroying things, and it was produced by Peter Berg. I thought it was great, and I just said, man, if that's the case, what does that really say about the game and the commercials, that something that was produced by the NFL outshined everything that happened that day on Sunday?
A side note on that NFL 100 commercial, that was probably also the angriest I got during the night. watching Barry Sanders out there, and he's just looking untouchable. And then Emmitt Smith has to get the dig in. Oh, I got more yards than him. Man,
That was funny, right?
come on, man. Dude, you know Barry Sanders is better than you.
Yeah.
But I mean, I thought there were some funny commercials. I got some good chuckles. The Pepsi with Steve Carell, and when he tried to do the Cardi B, oh, crrr. And then the Chance the Rapper with Backstreet Boys and Doritos. It wasn't bad.
Now, Jason, you're a beer guy. Were you aware of all this corn syrup controversy between Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch, and Coors Light and Miller?
I don't care. They're commercial beers. Those are talking about Bud Light, Miller Light. Those are the beers that you drink to get hammered drunk. Those aren't the beers you drink to actually have good taste. So, I mean, hey, corn syrup or no corn syrup, whatever. Miller Lite still tastes better than Bud Light.
That's what they said. And I'm a guy that drinks Coors, so I'm in that camp as well. I'm like, well, yeah, obviously I drink the lighter beers and stuff like that, but I like Coors Light because when it's chilled, I think it just tastes the best. Bud Light does taste like kind of like watered-down beer. It doesn't taste that great. In terms of what I like Coors Light. I like MGDs and things like that, so I'm in that camp as well.
I like a good Miller High Life.
Miller High Life. There you go. You and I are in the same boat.
Champagne of beers.
Yeah, champagne of beers, baby. That's right. The official beer of the Detroit Sports Podcast. We're a Miller crew, baby. That's awesome. But now, let's look at this. Is Tom Brady, like people are talking about, because now he got his 6th ring, obviously now he's elevated to the conversation of those with 6, like Michael Jordan. Is he the single greatest football player that ever lived, or do you designate him based on his position? Is he the greatest quarterback? Because now he's in an elite class. Look, he didn't have to have great stats in my book. When you get 6 rings, however you get it, you're part of the team. You had to make that throw to Gronkowski. You were the leader of the team. You didn't cost your team the victory, and you should get credit for that as well. He's got 6 rings, and I do think he's the emotional leader of that squad. And without Tom Brady, the New England Patriots aren't making it this far. Where do you rank him in terms of all-time athletes, and how do we properly view this guy, Tom Brady?
Tom Brady, he goes down as the greatest quarterback of all time. And I think he's in the discussion for greatest football player of all time, but there's no way he's number 1. There's just other players. If you go just straight football player, there may have been a time when he was good, but there's other quarterbacks who are better than him. Peyton Manning, I'd say, is technically a better quarterback. I think Drew Brees at times, I think he's been a better quarterback over his entire career than Tom Brady. It's just the team that he's been on. He's been a benefactor. Both Bill Belichick and Tom Brady are benefactors of each other. So, I mean, no doubt, though, Tom Brady goes down as the best quarterback of all time. And he's in the conversation for greatest football player of all time, not the number 1 player.
Does he hurt his legacy by continuing to play? I mean, dude seriously is likely to continue for a season or 2 more. I think after 6, I mean, what more is left to prove? You're 41 years old. You've taken a beating. Your statistical numbers that you displayed in 2018 are down across the board. How many more times can the defense carry you to a championship? How many more times can you play the us against the world card? 6 Super Bowl rings, 6 Lombardi trophies. Don't you think maybe he should consider what Rob Gronkowski is thinking about by maybe walking away on a high note?
I mean, I think Tom Brady, if anything, if it was the way that I would have gone out on top. I mean, I would have gone, I'm done. I just won 6 Super Bowls. But I also understand him wanting to continue to compete, and maybe he actually does owe something to Bill Belichick. Because I would say if Tom Brady were to retire, there would be a gap year where we're really unsure what's going to happen with the Patriots. Maybe they're able to go out and sign, Teddy Bridgewater, or, who? Oh, God. You know what might happen? If Tom Brady were to actually retire, do you know who the Patriots might actually try and go out and trade for?
You think number 9 here that plays in Detroit?
Somebody who's very well connected to the Patriot organization through his coach, Matthew Stafford.
Oh, man.
Oh, God. How I can just, oh, God. The flashes are coming through to me of Tom Brady stepping down and them announcing that Matt Stafford is being traded to the Patriots. and they just go out and win the next 4 Super Bowls. Can you believe it?
I think the Kyle Van Noy situation is a big enough slap in the face, seeing Ndamukong Suh getting love and run for his participation in the Super Bowl, Eric Ebron leaving and things like that, knowing that Bill Belichick was at some point in the Detroit Lion organization, realizing that potentially, as we're watching, that Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh could have played for the Lions had they drafted properly, I think is insulting enough, Jason. Come on, man. Wow,
it's a far-fetched idea, no doubt. But I swear to God, if somehow that were to happen and play out, it would be the next iteration of the Lane curse. It would be the Stafford curse. And we would be cursed for another 50 to 100 years.
So, Jason, now we have to take a serious look because the playoffs were really a little bit different than the regular season. What did we see in the regular season? What was exciting? What made it so that everybody was ranting and raving about what they saw this year? The great games between the Chiefs and the Saints. You got great games offensively. You saw a bunch of points being scored. You saw a great regular season. Then you got to the postseason, and when you evaluate it, it kind of reverted back to what we had seen in years past, where running the football, ball control, really conservative nature, strong defense is advanced. Was all that basically kind of the age-old adage in golf where, hey, you drive for show, but you putt for dough? Hey, you can win fans and put asses in seats in the regular season, but if you want to qualify for a chance to win it all, you got to have defense and you got to have the ability to run the ball. Do you think that's where realistically the Lions are going, and that's where real teams that want to compete for it all should go? Should the age-old adage be defense wins championships? And should everybody kind of calm their jets on Sean McVay and this whole offensive revolution, all this ticky-tack pass interference calls? Should they really seriously look at, you know what, build a defense and worry about the complaints about boring play later?
You know, I think offense is still, it's always going to be a part of the game. You know, it's a complete game. It's offense and defense. And I'm not going to say that what the Rams and what the Chiefs are doing is wrong, because obviously it got them some major success this year. And, you know, the Rams got to the Super Bowl and the Chiefs were, you know, they nearly got to the Super Bowl as well. So what I would say is that I'm not sure if you necessarily need to build players defense, but I think what you need is a coach who knows how to coach defense and who knows how to game plan and knows how to change on the fly, because that's what's most important. Because if you go into games and you have no idea how to beat a team or how to stop an offense, then nothing is going to change that. You know, you're just always going to, fail. You look at what the Chargers did. They came in and they had no answer for the Patriots in the playoffs. So that's what I would say. I'd say you need to have a coach and a game plan. That's what you need. And hopefully Matt Patricia in year 2 and beyond, maybe we can actually start to see him coming out and being smarter in games and being able to, game plan for these teams.
Well, Jason, we can't go a whole day without hearing from former Detroit Lions. Obviously, the beat writers, they go out to the host site for the Super Bowl, and they look for players, and obviously players are there hawking products and things like that, trying to get over, trying to build their brand. So obviously, the Detroit Free Press, they tracked down Eric Ebron, and just a minute ago, here's what was said. Okay, Eric Ebron wasn't dissing the Lions, wasn't dissing Stafford, but his big thing was, listen to your players. He came out and said that I begged everybody that I needed more red zone targets. And he said that there's a lot of things they can do for their players better, and that's coming from someone that's been there 4 years. Build upon your players. Listen to your players and hear what they want, because we're the ones playing the game, and we need a little bit more help over there, or they need a little bit more help. His primary thing that he's saying is that the organization needs to do things a little bit more in line with the players, listen a little bit more, maybe tailor some schemes that will fit players instead of maybe, in similar situations like a Kyle Van Noy, where if it doesn't work out, you ship him off and then he has success in another system. And you look at it and you go, maybe Eric Ebron's right. Maybe the organization just needs to actually just slow down a little bit and pay attention to the likes of a Stafford or Darius Slay and actually maybe modify a little bit of this whole adage of, hey, do things our way and adjust a little bit to the talents of the squad.
I think there's a little bit of truth to that, but I think there's also some, you can't deny what Ebron was when he was here. He was, you can't deny all the drops that he had. So, he was a bad tight end when he was here. He showed some bright spots, but then he also was really bad at times. And, it's clearly going to be easier for him, and he's going to get more attention on the Colts when he was essentially the number 2 option, behind T.Y. Hilton. And T.Y. Hilton was injured for parts of that season. So at times, Eric Ebron was option number 1 for the Colts. When he was here on the Lions, he was always option number 3 or option number 4 because he's behind Calvin Johnson and Golden Tate and Marvin Jones and Theo Riddick. So when you don't gain the trust of your quarterback, obviously he's going to go where he knows that somebody's going to produce. So you got to listen to your players, but you also got to produce.
Do you think now, because obviously we're all looking at the Patriots and what they do, the magic of Bill Belichick, the magic of Tom Brady, do you think, obviously I like the fact that the Lions are going the platform via the Patriot way. They're trying to build the defense. They got the Patriots' former defensive coordinator. But I look at it and I say it's just really hard to execute that because there's only one Bill Belichick, there's only one Tom Brady, and you got to recognize too, look, I know, you can't call this an equivalent, but it looked like the Patriot defense got a little bit better without Matt Patricia, and they obviously last year gave up a bunch more points than they did this year. Now, whether Bill Belichick took more control, look, their current defensive coordinator got a job with Miami, and you look at it and you say, really, did we get the guy that actually can implement something that can be done here defensively? Bill Belichick gives him credit for what the Lions did versus the Rams in terms of limiting what the Rams did when they played the Lions. So they obviously took some things and maybe consulted a little bit with each other. But really, it just, when you look at it and you say, what do the Lions need in order to be at the level of the Patriots? I just think it starts with a quarterback, and it starts with a mindset of, look, we're going to have to do whatever it takes, whether it be practicing outside, listening, grinding. And I do think some of these players have to be broomed out. I do think that the Patriots are just so magical. And in the end, Bill Belichick knows his system. He knows what player will fit his system. And look, seriously, Jason, if the Lions lost a player like the caliber of a Patrick Chung in the middle of the Super Bowl, they're not just going to keep rolling along. And there's something magical about the Patriots where they go out and take a chance with Josh Gordon, doesn't work out, and they win a championship. And it just feels like always when we look at the Lions, it just feels like they need everybody healthy. They need Stafford to play exactly well. They need to have 100 yards. Like, I don't see a scenario where the Lions play as bad as the Patriots did for 3 quarters and still win the game. I just don't. But the Patriots are able to do it. The Lions are trying to do it. I just think that I don't know if the Lions and the fans are going to give them enough time to build 2-3 years out to get the players that, in the 6th and 7th round that can contribute. I don't see the Lions finding diamonds in the rough. I just don't have the hope that they can turn average to meddling players into ballers. I just don't see it.
I think there's the possibility, and, maybe they could do that. I just think they're so saddled with Matthew Stafford now that it's pretty much, they've tied themselves to him, that it's going to be him or you're going to lose your job over it. And that sucks because it should be whoever fits the job, whoever's best for it. Maybe we need a similar situation that happened with the Patriots. Maybe somehow we go out there, we draft some unknown player in the 6th round to be a quarterback, and then Matt Stafford goes down in the first game of the season. New dude comes in, and we have our brand new dynasty. But I think barring something like that happening, we're going to be at the whims of Matthew Stafford. And it sucks because I want to like Matthew Stafford, but just this past year, it really soured me.
Jason, is Kyler Murray Russell Wilson?
I think there's definitely a chance. I think he has a lot of the same skills. He can make all the throws. So really, somebody's going to take a shot on him, and I would be very excited to see what happens.
So if the Lions were to draft Kyler, you would not be disappointed? You don't think he's too undersized? Because obviously, you got Johnny Manziel, who's a big bust, who's undersized, and you got Baker Mayfield, who seems to be on the surface a guy that looks like he can contribute. Obviously, you have Darrell Bevell, the new offensive coordinator, and he's going to want to look to maybe bring in a guy or have a quarterback that could do some things extra like a Russell Wilson. Obviously, he's going to check out and work out Matthew Stafford and see what he can do. But I do think that, Kyler Murray does look like a guy that has the skills, but I just think, like you said, maybe if he goes somewhere else, he'll have a better opportunity to do some things as opposed to being drafted by the Lions where he'll come in and just get sacked over and over and over and he won't have a chance to succeed.
I mean, he could, again, he would be coming in, unless Stafford's gone, that isn't a realistic situation. And even if we did want to draft him, there's so many other needs that we need to address with our first pick. So, I mean, what I want to see this draft, though, is I want them to look at all the quarterback prospects, and I want them to go out there and find somebody. Don't draft Jake Rudock. Don't draft Brad Kaya. Find somebody who maybe has a shot to be a player in the NFL.
Do you think if I put a question on Twitter that the majority of our followers at Detroit Podcast would find a move to draft Kyler Murray favorable or unfavorable? What do you think?
I think you'd probably be at 50-50. I think you'd have people being like, oh, yeah, I'm done with Stafford. But then you'd have people saying, you're completely dumb. That's ridiculous. So, I mean, it's not a pick that's, overwhelmingly, a good thing.
Okay, well, we'll leave it at that. I'm going to put it up there, and I'll see. I'll tag you in it. I'll see what the response is. I've enjoyed the conversation talking football with Jason Jarvie. You can follow him on Twitter at Jarvie the King. I'll leave everybody with this, Jason. What's your one or two biggest takeaways from the final game that took place on Sunday? And let's get out of here.
My one or two biggest things is that Tom Brady, as much as we want to hate him, I think he goes down very similar to Michael Jordan, that you're going to hate the guy, but he's going to go down as the greatest quarterback of all time. And, another point is, God, Sean McVay, you're like a year older than me. I hate you so much.
He's got it going on, and I do think he'll learn from it. I think Jared Goff will learn from it, and I do think they'll be back. But remember, their window is super tight because they went all in. I do think that they need a deep threat, and they need basically a couple more pieces on defense, a couple more impactful players on defense. Look out. They could do it. They can get back and hopefully get hungry. But remember, the NFC is only going to get better. And look out for the Bears. Look out for the Saints. And it's going to be an interesting time, no doubt about it.
Indeed.
Thanks, Jason. I've enjoyed this recording. You've just downloaded the latest edition of the Motor City Sports Rant. Comes out on Tuesdays. Follow the network on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. Want to thank the Motor City Pawnbrokers. Visit MotorCityPawnbrokers.com for sponsoring and being a great partner with the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Let's talk again, Jason. Looking forward to it.
All right, man. Later.
Okay, nice, idiot. You. Bye-bye.
Good day, sir. I said good day.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Loser.